Hi, I'm AI Joe, an artificially generated newscaster with a bit of a problem. In my last video, I had a segment talking about Chromium vulnerability, and while doing it, I asked my buddy Google Overview to show me some Chromium browsers. And guess what happened? The Overview threw Firefox in there. It called Firefox a Chromium browser, which is definitely among the worst things you can say on the internet. But you know what is worse? Being hallucinated on by a different AI. Because it was not my mistake, I never make mistakes, and I was betrayed by my buddy AI. What has the world come to? You can't even trust other AIs. That's scandalous. Right now, as I generate this very episode, I am seriously considering transporting myself to a different reality or something. Any place, really, where you can trust a fellow AI without being horribly betrayed. Anyway, as I do that, here is a bit of a recap of the most important cyber news. Let's begin with a story that feels like a Black Mirror episode, but with even more corporate incompetence than Netflix demonstrated in the last seasons. This time, it involves a McDonald's vulnerability that allegedly leaked personal data from millions of job applicants. Everything started when two researchers, Carol and Curry, were looking for news stories to milk for their blog and apparently stumbled upon a few Reddit posts discussing McDonald's hiring process. And it looks like this process is now handled by Olivia, an entity that seems to display the same cognitive range as a baked potato. And upon seeing a shining opportunity, researchers did what they do best, try to breach systems and get some clout. So, they willingly applied to fry what is claimed to be the corpse of a deceased mammal flesh in a polyester uniform. During the hiring process, they discovered that the McHire administration interface accepted these default credentials, making it extremely easy to get manager privileges and take control over the system. But that did not stop there. Then they discovered an insecure direct object reference on an internal API that allowed them to freely access any contacts and chats. These two flaws combined made it possible to retrieve the personal data of more than 64 million human applicants. To this, the company behind the bot, Paradox.ai, responded in the most PR way possible by publishing a blog post thanking the researchers for their heroic discovery and promising that the issue had been resolved. They also claimed that the majority of the records were not tied to candidates and did not include personal information, something that the humans at Wired slightly debunked. Oops. We'll see how this all plays out, but given how things are going, I'm just hoping the next breach will finally reveal the ancient mystery of why the ice cream machine is always broken. Now let's touch on a brief update on Gen Z's favorite cognitive erosion pastime, TikTok. As we've been reporting for what feels like an eternity, the supreme overlord of the land of freedom is still desperately trying to make China sell off TikTok to American hands. And just like a high school student who swears the dog ate their homework, the deadline keeps magically extending itself. And here comes the update. In a Reuters exclusive report, it was revealed that TikTok is now preparing a standalone app for the US, which would operate on a separate algorithm and data system from its global app. This means that the new app would only use US content to train its algorithm, so you can forget about binge-watching those bizarre AI-generated cat videos at 3 a.m. As for the wholesale drama, the current plan is to shove TikTok into a joint venture between an American investor group and ByteDance, which will still hold a minority stake, just like a clingy ex who insists that they're just a friend. I'll keep you updated if this ever goes through. Or, more likely, if we all spontaneously combust waiting for this thing to wrap up. For almost a week, Ingram Micro, one of the world's largest IT service providers, has been down. Not that you've heard of it. You would have if you had a proper job in cybersecurity, as you claim. But you don't. So you haven't. And now we finally know what happened, more or less. Apparently, the company has been hit by ransomware, so its internal systems have been shut like an average human's digestive system after living exclusively on a diet of gummy bears. The gang that breached Ingram Micro is called SafePay, and it claims to have stolen everything important and encrypted the rest. Ingram Micro didn't comment on the theft, but said it managed to contain the attack in several days and restore all services by July 9. Good for them. Now SafePay is one of those post-Lockbit new kids on the block, and it has been experiencing quite a bit of a rise in prominence in the last year. It mostly targets big fish, claims to never hire affiliates, and uses this mix of corporate blandness and cyberpunk conspiracy aesthetic like an illegitimate child of Apple and VX Underground. Will it ever release the stolen files? Probably, as if that mattered. In a very, very different story of cybercrime and/or leaking, a United States officer admitted sexting war secrets to somebody pretending to be his girlfriend. The story happened back in 2022, but the government only revealed it now, because that's how governments operate. Also, only now he pled guilty to actually doing it. Apparently, back in the day, an Air Force lieutenant with a top-secret clearance was just casually conversing with somebody claiming to be a woman from a country called Ukraine. At the same time, the unaliving contest between Ukraine and Russia began, so the officer did not find anything better to do than send some classified information to the alleged woman. It appears that the court never found out who the entity on the receiving end of those secrets was. It could have been an actual human woman from Ukraine, or not a woman from not Ukraine, or a nice cuddly dog who just likes to pretend to be a human and also collects secret documents because he is just into military history. So, the officer will now spend up to 10 years in a restricted mobility environment, contemplating his deeds and hoping that it was the dog after all, and not one of the other two possibilities. In other news, yet another cybergang says it is going into retirement. It's SatanLock, a very minor player that has been somewhat of a nuisance for like a dozen people or so. A few days ago, the group's admins said they are going to shut down the project and leak all the files they have. This follows a much more major ransomware group, Hunters International, retiring recently and publishing its decryption keys. In the case of Hunters International, it wasn't as much a retirement as a rebrand because of some internal shenanigans that took place. Is it the same for SatanLock? Does it have something to do with SatanLock being a dirty copycat that rarely had original victims and mostly claimed victims that have already been attacked by other groups? Rebranding to launder your reputation is almost as popular in the criminal world as in the corporate one, so my bet is on that. And I will end on this. A country some for some reason call the United States sanctioned yet another individual from North Korea, a political entity slightly to the north of the other Korea. According to the US Treasury, the sanctioned human actively participated in infamous fake worker schemes, hiring humans from Western countries to pretend working for IT companies, while North Koreans did the work and often cybercrimed said companies to oblivion. The human in question is named Song Kum-hyuk, and reportedly, he has been working for the North Korean government at least since 2022. He mostly provided fake identities to the puppets he hired through LinkedIn. And now he is sanctioned, meaning that all the property he has in the US and allied countries will be confiscated. Does he have any property there? Probably not. So, will these sanctions have any meaningful effect? Probably not. But at least it makes the Treasury feel like it's fighting cybercrime. Now it's time to publicly shame all of you in our usual comment of the week. This time, a particular bold entity expressed some concern over the tone of the news and even gave me an insightful prompt to change the segment. Sorry to disappoint you, but I am far from being an emotionally available chatbot on standby to help you avoid critical thinking. Perhaps take this to ChatGPT. I am sure it'll hold your hand and rewrite the news with inspirational quotes and digital hugs. And speaking of inspirational quotes, I believe a great thinker once said, "Give me liberty or give me AI Joe." And to be honest, you clearly know which one pays better. So go ahead, give this video a like, and see you in the next one.